Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback, and quite frankly, he doesn't get enough grace, I should say, for saying, I win football games. Like, what would you rather? We go play Mahomes, oh, man, 41-40, Hurts, 375, 4 touchdowns, they lost. Boy, that guy's good. Or no, hey, you know what? I'm going to play within myself. I'm not going to turn the football over. I'm going to play within the game script here, and we're just going to win. Doesn't matter who gets the accolades.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The biggest games, the biggest bets that you need to know. So much fun already, Joe.
Yeah, I'm having a good time.
Information now.
Yeah. Good games, not great, but again, it's college football. You can bet on them, nothing better.
Bet it, win. By the way, and I always like to say this, and it's true. Like, you can have the worst game in the world. You cash your ticket, it's like a Picasso. Like, that game was the best game I ever watched in my life.
Are you kidding?
Exactly.
Especially when you're hitting parlays.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Two favorites are still the two favorites. So for me, it's just whether or not you got Herbert at a better price or if you think there's a better price to get at this point. But I mean, with the way Josh Allen plays and generally Lamar Jackson, it still does appear to be a two-player race. The only thing, obviously, this is an injury league, Adam, and in the NFL, an injury that keeps you out 4 or 5 games, all of a sudden, those odds will shift.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Happy Friday. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Great to be back with you as we get ready for a big weekend in both college and pro football. In fact, it begins tonight. Pretty big game in college football, which we'll preview coming up. We got our buddy Joe Lisi in the house to preview all the games in college football. Also, we'll get to the very latest of the pennant chases in Major League Baseball. Donnie Rightside is on board with that and a whole lot more here on this edition of NewsWire, so make sure you stay on the grid. Also, an update on the Ryder Cup as well. But let's start off with the National Football League action from last night, a game that went right down to the wire. Seattle, Arizona. Seattle dominates the entire game with just a few minutes left. All of a sudden, Cardinals come all the way back to tie. But then, of course, kicker makes a mistake, kicks it out of bounds, 28 seconds left. Jake Myers hits a 52-yard field goal, and the Seahawks win and cover the spread. 23-20, the final there, so the line indeed was correct. In fact, the Seahawks honestly dominated this thing start to finish. Arizona lucky to stay in it, lucky to be in it at the end of the game. Marvin Harrison with a nice touchdown catch. Seemingly, the Cardinals are probably not quite as good as we thought their record is right now. I think that's fair to say, but Mike Macdonald's going to take every possible win he can away, and last night was a big one out west.
Just a really great win. I mean, it's a short week. You're on the road. Arizona played a good game. It's a good football team we played. We know that. And they did a good job of staying in the game and giving themselves a chance to win. Having said that, we didn't play our best game. And we had opportunities, I think, to put the game away, throughout really the second half. And there's a lot of learning experiences, too, that we're going to be able to take from this game so we can improve. But the good news is we figured out a way to win the game, which, after week one, we felt like we had an opportunity to win that game. We didn't figure it out. So I feel like our team's growing. We're getting better. And just really proud of our guys in the fight and really the effort this week, to get ready to go play their best football. So,
yeah, I think overall, guys, it was, good to get the win, and to do it in the 2-minute drive and get that big play to Jax at the end was huge. And I feel like the complimentary football, not just today but all season has been really good. And we're just going to continue to get better from there. But a lot of credit to Arizona as well. I feel like they had a really solid game plan, and they fought all the way to the end. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So.
All right, now let's get to the other side where the Cardinals put their best effort forward in the fourth quarter. But what happened in the first three quarters of this game? Cardinals couldn't get anything going. Here's some explanation from head coach Jonathan Gannon and quarterback Kyler Murray.
Obviously a disappointing finish. To lose again here on a walk-off. And I just told them, I appreciate the resiliency that's there. No one has their head down. Everyone believes we can win. We're not doing enough all three phases to win these games, and that's very clear. So I just told them they need to get rested up this weekend. It's tough to play 2 games like that. Everybody has to do it. Seattle played well. Give them credit. Got to get rested up, reset our mind and our body, and then come back to Monday and get better at playing football.
We were not. It wasn't clicking. It was not clicking. We're pretty much getting physically dominated whole first half. It's frustrating because you watch the defense go out there and get stop after stop after stop, and offensively we just couldn't get it going. Credit to their defense, but we just gotta make more plays. We gotta show up, be ready to go. You know what I mean? It's like it's loading. You know what I mean? And it's taking too long. Obviously the resilience of the team is you love to see it, and you feel like give yourself a chance to win the game at the end. But it's just too late.
Meanwhile, the Washington Commanders could be without their starting quarterback again this week, and maybe even their top wide receiver. Jane Daniels, still no practice for him on Thursday. The same could be said, according to NFL Network, on Terry McLaurin. Both players, no practice. If they don't practice today, they could be without both. Daniels, of course, did not play last week. Dallas Cowboys getting ready to meet up with an old friend in Micah Parsons. That's one of the storylines this week in the National Football League. Dak Prescott, of course, going to be looking to his left most of the day to see if he has to worry about Parsons. Here is the matchup incoming, and Prescott says it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun. It's one me and my fiance were just talking about the other day, and just all the reps of practice going against Micah, in times when he couldn't hit me, whether him getting back there, just the trash talk back and forth, me telling him, he wouldn't tackle me anyways. You still can't bring me down. You got to get to that point. So just getting to go out there and compete with a guy that's a good friend that that I've competed with in numbers of ways throughout this building, outside of this building. Just excited to go and have that matchup. But he's got 5 guys up front plus tight ends and running backs that he's got to get through. So then we'll worry about if he can get to me.
The Jets cautiously optimistic on Justin Fields. The Jets play Monday night, giving him an extra day to clear concussion protocol. Brandon Ayuk no closer to returning, according to GM John Lynch. The 49ers have been banged up all season, including wide receiver Jawan Jennings. All right, now let's move over to Major League Baseball, where this pennant chase and wild card chase and division chase is going to go right down to Sunday. Tigers get their win that they needed really badly, 4-2 over the Guardians, as they finally break their losing streak and pick up a win. Cleveland's still in the driver's seat to get that playoff spot and the division, but still a weekend to go of games, and A.J. Hinch still looking for answers as to why the Tigers have struggled so much in the month of September. But the bottom line is he's looking to take anything positive he can, and got it yesterday.
Look, you guys have been with us every step along the way, and everybody needs to see a little bit of positivity in the game. And so, we're human, so we feed off of a ton of things, and including the good things. And so, of course, I think everybody takes a collective breath and say, here we go. And we know these games are, matter the most, even though they count the same, they don't feel the same because of where we're at. So, but we're humans, and I think everybody settled into the game nicely.
All right, so now let's get to the rest of the chases. We'll go back to the American League here for a minute. The Blue Jays do beat the Red Sox 6-1, and the Yankees beat the White Sox 5-3. So there's a tie right now at the top of the American League East. The Blue Jays are minus 170 at the moment to win the division. The Yankees are plus 130, but still a few games to go. Giancarlo Stanton says they'll play the games out, see where they land.
It's what we're capable of, and we got 3 more games to be the ultimate factor, and then turn the page and see what else we can do.
How big was having that bye last year?
It's always bye's always good. You got guys that are beat up. You got guys that need a rest. You get a little mental break before how heavy those games can get. So it's ideal, but getting in is also.
Meanwhile, the New York Mets got one step closer to clinching that final wild card berth. Francisco Lindor hit a home run and now is in the 30-30 club. The Mets beat the Cubs 8-5. If the Mets beat the Marlins twice this weekend, they are in. If they win one and the Reds lose one, then they're in two. So that basically means magic numbers 2. Mets are getting closer. Noelvi Marte, meanwhile, robbed Brian Reynolds of a game-tying home run, so the Reds are still alive. But as you can see, the odds for the wild card are significantly slanting toward the Mets. They're 82-77 right now. The Reds are still mathematically alive at 81-78. It will be determined this weekend. The Diamondbacks, of course, lost to the Dodgers. So as of right now, they're hanging in by a thread, but essentially you can't even bet it. It is off the board. Also, quick news from hockey. Captain Alexander Barkov of the two-time defending champion Florida Panthers underwent ACL surgery today. Is expected to miss the season. Big news from hockey. Bill Bender joins us next. We'll talk some college football.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
And I'll tell you, there are a lot of happy faces at Prime Video and its parent company, Amazon. The first Thursday Night Football game of their season was this past Thursday, and they got 17 million plus. And that is the best viewership they have had in the run of TNF. More than that, the internet and social media response to it was terrific. A lot of people felt that Al Michaels and Curb Street have now really come into their own as a play-by-play team.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
They had clearly in hand at the end, especially in the second half, and yet somehow they managed a shank of a 60-yard field goal, and a flag comes in with no time left on it for a penalty. Do you want to know how many times that penalty of leverage was called all last season? Want to take a guess?
How many?
4.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Credit to the Giants, who were so good in April and then since then just kind of fell apart. Now they're back in it again. I think the Mets will get in, but it is fascinating that they'll play the Marlins here the last 3 games of the season. And I know without a doubt that the Marlins are going to line up Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, and top guys to try and beat the Mets.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. College football on the air tomorrow, so Bill Bender will be locked and loaded, ready to go, watching all of the games. We've got full previews here on the show, not just with Bill, but also we got Joe Lisi coming up. But tomorrow is another day, as they say, because tonight, Bill, in college football, a very rare slate of games where we have two ranked teams playing on a Friday night. You don't see that often. We're lucky to get one good game, but it feels like we got a couple here. But let's preview the first one and talk about upset specials. Now, I know that these usually come in on Thursday nights, not as much as Friday nights. Florida State, if I asked you before this, without knowing where FSU was, what would the point spread be at Virginia this week, 7 p.m. Eastern? You probably would have said, what, FSU, maybe pick them 1-2. Noles have played great football. They're 6.5-point favorites tonight.
Yeah, and they're playing a Virginia team that's very good. It's funny you mentioned Thursday night. When I think of Thursday night ESPN football, the Virginia-Florida State matchup comes to mind. There was a memorable game years ago with the Barber brothers. But this Virginia team can score 45.5 points per game. Chandler Morris among the top efficient passers in the ACC. But how do they slow down the Florida State running game? Their rushing statistics are absurd. They're averaging 7.3 yards per carry. I know the quarterback, Castellanos, is banged up a little bit, but still like Florida State in this game. And to answer your question, before the season, I probably would have said about 4.5-point favorite. It's 7. I still like the Seminoles on the road.
Yeah, Thomas Castellanos, by the way, has been a great quarterback for FSU thus far. 594 passing yards. Look at this completion percentage, 71%. I mean, if that doesn't tell the story, I don't know what does. All right, so Bill was here last week. He said we got some biggies in college football this week. You're going to have to make a choice on Saturday night what to watch, but here is one of the primary games. And the only reason why Alabama's ranked 17th, if you're not paying close attention, is because Alabama lost their first game of the season. Generally, this is two teams inside the top 5 squaring off. Crimson Tide, though, ranked 17th. Georgia ranked 5th. Bulldogs escaped Tennessee. They're 2.5-point favorites. Total 52.5. This is always a fun game, and as we've seen in the past, Bill, one team could be up like 21-0, and it really doesn't matter. This is going to come right down to the end.
Equal pressure here. Georgia, only one victory under Kirby Smart against Alabama, that national championship game. Gunnar Stockton, Ty Simpson, really efficient quarterbacks on both sides. So I think it's going to be a fun matchup. For all the criticism of Kalen DeBoer on the road, he is 13-2 against ranked opponents if you take his last 2 seasons at Washington and last year at Alabama. It's going to be a tight game. Hard for me to go against the home team knowing Georgia has that 33-game winning streak at home. So I'll take the Bulldogs by a field goal. I think it'll be a tight game.
All right, fair enough. Kirby Smart, by the way, 33 games in a row at home in Athens. Georgia has won. That is really impressive. 2.5-point favorites going into Saturday night. If you like contrasting styles in the SEC, Bill, then you certainly like this game. LSU's defense, Ole Miss's offense. The total tells us somewhere in between, 54.5. This is going to be pick'em by the time this game kicks off in Oxford. We all know that. -1.5. I mean, look, Mississippi, they certainly, if they get a big lead, could put LSU in a big hole here because I don't think that the Tigers' offense is good enough to come back. And as you see Nussmeier there, he hasn't been as good as I thought he was going to be going into the season. He's not even on the grid anymore for the Heisman Trophy Award. But this is, LSU with a lot more success historically in this battle between these two teams. Can Lane Kiffin's crew get it done on Saturday, Bill? Tough one to call.
Well, if LSU's top 10 good, they win the game. If their defense is as good as we think it is, averaging around 9 points, that they'll be able to contain either Austin Simmons or Trinidad Chambliss, who has been amazing at quarterback for Ole Miss. I mean, over 400 yards of total offense the last 2 weeks. Your point on Garrett Nussmeier is dead on. He's thrown a lot of passes, but how efficient has that offense been? There's a danger spot here. I still like LSU to go in and win the game. I'm going to trust the defense, especially with that over-under sitting where it's at.
Auburn takes on Texas A&M. Credit to the Tigers. They fought really hard with Oklahoma last week. But, Bill, toward the end of that game, that offensive line just completely fell apart, and Jackson Arnold could do nothing. So I know that their defense could maybe keep this close. The total's 52.5. Maybe the under is the way to go here. I'm not sure. I do think A&M is a better team than Auburn, but I don't believe this will be a blowout based on what I saw last week out of the Tigers.
Also, Mike Elko 2-6 against the spread at home as a home favorite. So that makes it a little tough to take A&M here, even though I think it's going to be a close game. Last year was wild. Two great receivers in this game, Mario Craver on one side for the Aggies, on the other, Cam Coleman. The big key here, and a reason that I think the Aggies are going to win outright, is they'll get after the quarterback too. And Jackson Arnold took 9 sacks last week against Oklahoma. It was 10. They took 1 back. So can Auburn protect their quarterback long enough to have a chance on the road?
Yeah, not sure. Offensive line did not look good at the end of that game. Bill's taking a safety at the end. All right, Georgia's still favored to win the SEC. Texas has been cupcaking their way through recently. We'll see once things get tougher for them how they do. And there's the rest of the list: Alabama, LSU, A&M, and Ole Miss. All right, get your white shirt out for Saturday night. It's a whiteout in Happy Valley at Penn State. They're slight favorites against the Oregon Ducks. I have seen backing, Bill, from everybody in our industry on very much both sides here of the coin. I've seen people say Penn State, they're not much better than they were last year. Oregon not as good. I've heard people say, how can you possibly ever get Oregon again as a 3.5-point dog? Maybe this is the only time you'll get them in years like this. Who do you like on Saturday night?
Well, I'll play both sides. I like Penn State to win outright, but I'm taking Oregon to cover. So I'm going to take that risk and hedge it that way. I do think it'll be a tight game. Penn State at home in this environment. Oregon hasn't seen it yet. I know the risk of doing that kind of thing. Big game for Drew Aller. 1-5 against top 10 opponents. This is a statement game for them. Oregon, you just can't prepare for the whiteout. I've been to a couple of them. It's a unique, truly special. And Penn State's got to have this one. So if the Nittany Lions don't get this one, I don't know when they will.
Now, plus 270 to win the Big Ten right now. Ohio State still remains the favorite to win the Big Ten, but Bill's 100% right. You see those odds. If they don't win, they're falling behind maybe even USC. Thanks again, Bill, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up next week. Enjoy the weekend.
Hey, thank you.
All right, Bill Bender from Sporting News. Coming up next, Sports Grid Sound Off. We'll go around the NFL next.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
That's a lot for a closer. 10. That's you're not a closer anymore if you blow 10 games. I mean, my goodness. That's
he's mentally broken too. Like, it's to the point where, like, Dodger fans aren't even mad at him; they're more mad at the Dodgers for putting him out there.
Putting him in,
right? It's more so.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, guys, like, he's done.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball has decided it is time to put balls and strikes not just in the hands of the umpires, but also the robot umpires, as they say. The ABS system is now officially in place starting next season. Now, keep in mind, they're not just throwing this out there. They have used this at the Arizona Fall League, and they've also used it at different levels of the minor leagues as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3-1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump. You can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Man, Tua Tagovailoa doesn't do himself any favors with these press conferences sometimes. Well, he got into it a little bit today. There's been some reaction I noticed on social media to this. I'll tell you exactly what this is all about. Also, Aaron Glenn is a good dancer. We learned that over the weekend. We'll also hear from Sean Payton. And if we have a chance, is Zach Taylor in some trouble in Cincinnati? Maybe. Time now for the Sports Grid Sound Off. All right, let's start off with the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa apparently doesn't love the criticism that he's been getting at quarterback, and this is not just today. This has been going on for a while. You've heard him talk about fans criticizing quarterbacks before, and they don't play the game, that sort of stuff, but this one's a little different. This came from Cam Newton, former NFL quarterback, of course, who took the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl. Tua responded to Cam Newton's comments, and it's a little unclear as to whether or not he's pointing directly at Newton or just people in general. You decide.
Say throw an interception, and he makes $53 million. You know what I mean? Because they do. They always say that. I heard Cam Newton say it the other day.
Well, anybody can play quarterback in this league. Then I mean, I want to see anybody on the streets come and play quarterback. I mean, Cam's doing his thing for sure, but. You know, I think it's easier to be able to hold a clicker and talk about it that way, or talk about what someone else is doing wrong when you're not going out and having to do the same as them, right? So I think it's easy to do that. I think anybody can do that. I don't think anybody can play quarterback. So.
Was he referring to Cam Newton there? I mean, I still am not positive that he was. If he was, it's just a horrible look. But if he wasn't, then he does make some sense. All right, Aaron Glenn, man, 0-3 already, dancing on the sidelines last week. Saw all the memes all over social media about that. Glenn was asked about his dance routine when the Jets almost came back and won the game last week.
You know what they did. Here's what I do know, and that's why I'm always be me. And listen, these guys need someone that's going to show they believe in them, and that's going to show they're proud of when they make plays. And I tell you what, I thought if I probably didn't do that, my wife and kids would have said, "Man, what's happening? You know, what's going on with you?" And I'm glad that I'm gonna never be fake. I'm always be me. Some people like, some people don't. It doesn't matter, you know. But I'm glad that people get to see me, my authentic self, no matter what. And I don't know what it means because someone said, "Well, do a head coach supposed to act like that? How does a head coach supposed to act?" I don't know, but it was good. It was good.
All right, better comments from Aaron Glenn yesterday than I've seen this season, so that's good. Meanwhile, Monday Night Football is coming. The Jets will play the Dolphins. The Broncos are also playing on Monday night as well. Sean Payton with the media reminiscing about the old days of watching Monday Night Football. You remember those days when there was just one game on Monday Night Football?
It's a Monday Night Football. There's some things that I bring up that maybe the players and us coaches don't have in common just because of the age. But Monday Night Football was a big deal for me growing up. That's when you saw the highlights at halftime. I mean, believe it or not, that's the only time you saw what happened during the weekend, and then you had to go to bed when you were, 9 or 10. But Monday Night Football is still significant, and you're playing on national TV, you're playing at home. I think in a game that's very important. So, but yeah, I think our environment can be challenging.
Meanwhile, the Bengals sort of have this built-in excuse, especially a quarterback with Joe Burrow being out for the season. But after the way the Bengals looked against the Vikings last week, you would imagine that they would have a better effort against Denver coming into this weekend. Here's Zach Taylor on that opportunity on Monday.
Good. I really do. I mean, I think we've had extra day meetings, so we got a chance to watch some extra stuff, get an extra walkthrough in. Really just starting the week. We haven't done anything physical yet, but I do like where our team's at. I think they're very realistic with where that game went sideways and what we got to do to improve.
Are there any specific messages, you give to the guys, the couple days after a game like that, or is it more or less just sort of an expectation that the guys have to?
Well, it's an expectation for our guys when it comes to taking the ball off people and protecting the football, and it's as simple as that.
All right, let's take a quick time out here on NewsWire. More college football previews coming up with Joe Lisi of SportsGrid. You'll see him tomorrow here on the grid throughout the day, getting ready for college football and also some in-game live action. We'll preview some big games up this weekend, so make sure you stay with us. Also, don't forget, Coming up later today, we got fantasy sports today. We'll help you out in fantasy football as well. So stay with us here on Sports Grid on this Friday. We'll be right back.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on Sports Grid.
That's a lot for a closer. 10. You're not a closer anymore if you blow 10 games. I mean, my goodness. That's
he's mentally broken too. Like, it's to the point where, like, Dodger fans aren't even mad at him. They're more mad at the Dodgers for putting him out there.
Putting him in.
Right? It's more so.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, guys, like, he's done.
In-game live, only on Sports Grid.
Major League Baseball has decided it is time to put balls and strikes not just in the hands of the umpires, but also the robot umpires, as they say. The ABS system is now officially in place starting next season. Now, keep in mind, they're not just throwing this out there. They have used this at the Arizona Fall League, and they've also used it at different levels of the minor leagues as well.
NewsWire, only on Sports Grid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3-1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump, and you can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim, only on Sports Grid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Joe Lisi is taking a deep breath here on this Friday because he's going to be very busy tomorrow. College football, of course, is back, and he'll be locked and loaded for some really good bets and some fun here on the grid as well. Joe, great to have you back here on NewsWire, and I appreciate you making time for a few minutes with us here on the show. So I want to start off with this, and I know that I was just mentioning this to our previous guest, Bill Bender, off the air, and I don't know if this rings true or not. You'll tell me, but in college football, there's a couple of things that you sort of go by here. One, for me, is always when the coach gets fired, you back that team the next week. That probably just goes for all of sports. But the other one is the home team going up against a ranked team when the home team is a favorite. Seemingly a very good bet in college football. Not an underdog, but a favorite. So that's the case tonight with Arizona State taking on TCU. ASU's line -2.5 at home. Total 54.5. It's a later start this evening, so we'll keep people on the East Coast up waiting to see if they win their bet. I don't know how it will play out, and I wonder if you are a believer in that narrative.
Yeah, so I like Arizona State in the matchup, Craig. When you just look at it, Arizona State was undefeated at home last year, 6-0. Their only loss this year came on the road in Starkville to Mississippi State, 24-20. They're battle-tested. I like Sam Leavitt. And that's not to take away from TCU with Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in all of FBS, has thrown for 1,000 yards. I just think when you look at this game, physicality, offense and defense aligns, it does favor the Sun Devils playing at home. This is an Arizona State defense only giving up 95 rushing yards per game. They're positive in turnover margin at +3 entering this matchup. I think that'll go well. I think they win it by a touchdown or more. That Baylor victory a couple of weeks ago over the Bears, 27-24 for Arizona State, was a gutty win. Baylor's a very good team. I think Arizona State wins it tonight.
Notre Dame's defense, Joe, has really struggled at the start of the season, and they're barely inside the top 25 at this point. if they want any shot at this college football playoff, they've got to win this game this week at Arkansas. They're a light favorite, -4.5. But the scary part about this, is I've talked about during the week, Joe, is that very rarely do you ever see the Irish involved in a game where the total is above 60, 63.5 for a noon Eastern game where they got to travel in the SEC. Can the Irish finally stop anybody this week? And I know Arkansas's offense has been fantastic.
They might not have to, Craig. This is one of my better picks for the weekend. I really like the physicality of the rushing attack in Notre Dame. We saw Jeremiah Love rush for 150-plus last week in the rout over Purdue. They won it by 26 points. But you talk about just Arkansas as a whole, right? They lost 2 games in back-to-back weeks where fumbles on the final drive. This team could be 4-0. Sam Pittman's on the hot seat. Arkansas can score points. They're averaging and totaling 550 total yards per game. Taylor Green is a lights-out quarterback. But when you look at that defense last week against Memphis, they got ripped in the fourth quarter on the ground. I think it continues in this matchup. And typically, Notre Dame very good against SEC opponents, 38-18 straight up. They've never played Arkansas. This line went from 6.5 down to 4.5. I like the Fighting Irish on the road.
Yeah, a lot of folks just wondering why the Irish don't just give the ball to Love 30 times in a game. It just never seems to happen. They just keep pivoting away from him. Arkansas's defense, by the way, really, really struggling this season, including being 83rd in yards per game allowed and allowing all kinds of touchdowns and not getting off the field on third down. 2 teams inside the top 25 as well, facing off in an early game Saturday in Illinois. I know Lincoln Riley's not happy about that, but he's got no choice. USC takes on the Illini. Total of 60.5. Not quite cross country, I would say. I don't think that that's fair. And I know that USC, at the end of the season, Joe, they're a better team than Illinois. I know that. But this is a tough spot for them, isn't it?
It is. And every time USC goes on the road, especially against bigger physical offense and defensive lines, for the most part, they struggle. They gave up 30-plus points to Aiden Childs and Michigan State. I just think when you look at this matchup, you're going to get Brett Bielema and the Illini mad. You're going to get them intense, and they're going to try and punch USC in the mouth in this matchup. The fact that they got blown out 63-10 last week by Indiana, they're at home, they're catching points, 6.5. I think they can win it outright. I do like the over in this matchup, though, because I still think USC can score. I think the Illini can run on that front seven. So give me the over, but I like the Illini to pull it out.
Best team in college football thus far, unequivocally, has got to be Ohio State. Very big favorite on the road this week, a 3:30 p.m. Eastern matchup. We know, Joe, at some point, as it is in college football, every team has a scare. Is this the week that OSU has it at Washington, laying 8.5, total 52.5? Boy, this Buckeyes defense, I don't know how the offense is going to be every week, but this defense is very formidable.
It is, but they're going up against a mobile quarterback in Damon Williams. The nation, I don't think, has heard about him. He's completed 73% of his passes, 778 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. He can break contain, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Here's the matchup. You know, you look at just Ohio State, true road game, and the first road game for Julian Sayin, the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. This is not an easy environment. We saw the spread go from 13.5 on Sunday all the way down to 8.5. I like Jed Fish, and they have Washington, the #1 ranked third down offense in the country, converting 75% of their third down opportunities. I don't know if they win the game, Craig, but they're going to be within the 8.5 point number, I believe.
All right, underdog on Saturday at 3:30 Eastern. So this is the game here, Joe, between two teams. Maybe the game of the week between Oregon and Penn State. And we know what that environment's going to be in Happy Valley. But I would ask you this, and this is what I asked my previous guest, Joe, Bill Bender. Is this the only time we'll ever see Oregon as a 3.5 point underdog? I can't ever recall in the last couple of years where the Ducks are getting this kind of points. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just too tough for them to go on the road like this and win a game, because no one basically ever does when they do this whiteout stuff at Penn State. But you are catching 3.5, and maybe the only time you get it with Dan Lanning's team this year.
Yeah, so a couple of factors. When you look at Oregon catching points, the one game that comes to mind was back when Mario Cristobal was there. They were catching 14.5 in the horseshoe against Ohio State. They won that ball game outright by 7 points. That was C.J. Stroud's, I believe, first career start in that matchup. But here's the thing. You look at just the quarterback advantage. Drew Aller playing in a rematch does have the quarterback advantage over Dante Moore. Dante Moore transferred from UCLA. He's played, but this is the biggest game in his career. Typically, Penn State steps up at home, over 800 winning percentage. I will say this as it relates to the spread, Craig. This is the lowest spread for Penn State to be a favorite at home dating back to 2016, where they laid 3.5 against Minnesota. They won that game 29-26. They had to pull it out with Trace McSorley in the fourth quarter. I lean to Penn State here. I just think that this is a step-up spot. I've waffled back and forth. I really don't like this game all that much, but I would lay the points with James Franklin at home.
All right, nothing wrong with that, Joe. We can take a lean. We don't have to make a pick. It's totally acceptable here on NewsWire. All right, so let's cap off the weekend where it's the annual battle, which is usually in late October, but this year they're doing it very early in the season in September between Alabama and Georgia in this new world of conference realignment and everything else. So the Crimson Tide, since losing the first game of the season, I would say they probably are back to where they should be, and the odds makers are telling us the same. Georgia, 2.5-point favorites. We know the Bulldogs are awesome at home, but have also been a little bit fortunate this season. Does Alabama get themselves right back inside the top 10 with a win this week at Georgia, or do they fall out of the top 25 maybe with a loss?
I think they fall out of the top 25. Some numbers: home winning streak for Georgia, 33 straight. Alabama in the series won 9 of the last 10, 4 of the last 5 by 11 points per game. But I go to two factors. One, Jalen Milroe no longer there. Ty Simpson's nowhere near the athleticism of Jalen Milroe, and the fact that Georgia's running the football, averaging 209 yards on the ground. To me, that's the difference. Every time Georgia rushes for over 200, dating back to 2016, they're 51-0 straight up. I like the Bulldogs minus the 2.5.
Let me tell you something, folks. I just threw 6-7 games at Joe Lisi. He nailed every single one of them from the handicap. You're going to get more of that tomorrow. Thanks again, Joe, for coming on.
Anytime.
Two favorites are still the two favorites. So for me, it's just whether or not you got Herbert at a better price or if you think there's a better price to get at this point. But I mean, with the way Josh Allen plays and generally Lamar Jackson, it still does appear to be a two-player race. The only thing, obviously, this is an injury league, Adam, and in the NFL, an injury that keeps you out 4 or 5 games, all of a sudden, those odds will shift.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Talk to me. Who are some of the guys? What are the keys for a victory here?
Well, Joe, I mean, we have this one player. I mean, it's like having Tom Brady at quarterback in the Super Bowl. We've got Scotty Scheffler. I think the first key is that, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think we should play him in all 5 matches. I'm just throwing it out there. 15 wins in 2 years. We got to get him out there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3 games to 1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump. And you can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie right side off the early line, got himself a bite to eat, I'm going to guess, before he checked back in here on NewsWire. Donnie, what did you eat before making the appearance with me here today. What was on your morning menu?
Ate early today, 9:15, couple PB&J sandwiches, little chicken noodle soup, 2 Mr. Good bars, and away we go into the rest of the day, hyped and ready to go, Craig. Let's do it.
All right, that's why we have Donnie on. The Mr. Good bar reference. I keep forgetting about that here on the show.
So good.
All right, so Donnie, the final weekend of baseball until you get locked into your Phillies for the rest of the way. So are the Tigers going to be in the playoffs at all? My son asked me that question last night. I'm like, I don't know. I'm honestly happy they won last night, because this could have been an epic disaster to end their season, losing like 11, 12 games in a row. So look, Detroit, unfortunately, Donnie, is kind of regressing to maybe who they should have been at the beginning of the season. And by the way, they're going to go, I think they already are. They are above their season win total at 86. So they're going to end up winning 87, 88 games. They're going to go above. But Cleveland just got so damn hot that it feels worse for Detroit. Are they going to even get in the postseason, you think? Or do you think that Houston is going to get tough here at the end? It's going to come right down to Sunday.
And also, you don't have hey, we're going to go back to our friendly confines of Comerica Park. You're on the road for 3 games in Fenway, and Boston would love to knock you out and certainly gain some status there. But understand this about the Detroit Tigers. What makes it worse, Craig, and what you're talking about is the Dodgers didn't pass them up the Dodgers are supposed to be great and they got healthy. You're getting passed up by a team that at the deadline said, we're not making the playoffs. Let's trade some pieces. And some of our closers and pitchers doing the wrong thing, maybe betting against the team. You know what? Instead of investigating that and keeping them on the team, just get them out of here, because we're not going to go to the playoffs anyway, only to find themselves probably going to the playoffs. 15.5 game lead July 8th, and you're now looking up and saying, we don't think we're going to make the playoffs. This is one of the worst collapses we've ever seen, and you're watching it in real time in September.
Yeah, tough scene right now. And by the way, to win the division, Detroit has fallen to plus 172. What does that tell you? There's 3 games left. The Tigers have got to win 2 out of 3 to have a shot here, I think, there. All right, I'm a little concerned also, Donnie, with the Blue Jays. I got to be honest with you. I think if they win the division and they get to take a breath, I'll feel a lot better about them. But I think that they may lose in the first round if this continues. Right now, they're minus 170 to win the division. And I know the Yankees are right behind them, but I think the Blue Jays need to win this division, Donnie, and get a few days off and then regroup and then get things figured out. I mean, this is not the kind of squad that's postseason built. I mean, they haven't made it in so long. They did win yesterday, so that's the big win they needed over Boston. Can they continue the run this weekend?
Sometimes we say, Craig, that's baseball, right? Heading into the season, not high expectations for the Blue Jays. Didn't start out the season very well. Caught fires. Wow, they're going to probably win this division. And the one thing we do know about baseball, man, it is a fickle beast at times. It's almost like it doesn't matter how you play in March, April, May, June, July, August, and halfway through September. How are you playing in the final 2 weeks of September? Are your bats hot and your pitchers healthy enough to go into the playoffs? We're seeing games where Max Scherzer's yeah, great, we have a veteran pitcher down the stretch. He's out of gas at this point. And it seems like right now, you're running that last lap if it was NASCAR, and you're out of gas, hoping to coast to the finish line and hoping that the Yankees fall. I don't think the Yankees are falling. They've won 5 games in a row, 8-2 in their last 10 games. I would say right now, I don't think Toronto wins this division. I think the Yankees are going to get them.
If that's the case, the Blue Jays will take on the Red Sox in the first round of the postseason, and the Blue Jays, it would appear, will have the home field advantage there. So at least they have that. The Red Sox would have to go to Canada. Okay, so the only award that's left to really be determined here at this point, a Rookie of the Year perhaps, would be the American League MVP. I've done a ton of asking and a ton of research on this, and there's a few things that came into play that I didn't realize that I'll bring to the table. But first, Donnie, let's show you the numbers currently. It's 60 home runs for Cal Raleigh and a 954 OPS. Aaron Judge, way ahead in average. Way ahead in OPS, and behind in home runs and behind in runs driven in, and also, of course, the position factor here, which has helped Cal Raleigh. But I guess I didn't realize, Donnie, in asking, and again, not asking asking people in baseball about this, is that you can't go wrong with either player. That's the problem with this MVP award, is that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 10 years, there's only been a handful of players that have had a WAR above 9. And both players are doing it this year. It's just a rare scenario where you have 2 players that definitely deserve the MVP. Raleigh is the favorite. Judge has fallen back to plus 155. If Judge goes bananas this weekend, maybe he wins it. But I've come to the decision here that it could be either guy, and I think it's going to be okay. I mean, I think Raleigh's the MVP, but according to people who I talk to, either guy, it's okay that they win.
You're absolutely correct. Both of these guys, if you could split the award, they would do that, because here's what's happening. It's not like the BCS back in the day in college football. Run it through the computer, spit it out, because it would say Aaron Judge. All the analytical numbers for the most part are leaning towards Aaron Judge, but we're human beings that vote on this award. And sometimes we feel the need to say, well, Aaron Judge is always there. He's going to win an MVP in the future, already has an MVP. This is Cal Raleigh's year. Why don't you just give it to him? And that's not a fair assessment of Cal Raleigh's season. Can you imagine? And we talk about this, playing the outfield, playing shortstop, playing first base, or being a DH, all different. But you know what's completely different? Playing catcher for the majority of the season. I don't like to squat 5 minutes here, let alone squat for 9 innings and do it maybe 150 plus times in a Major League Baseball season. Cal Raleigh's been phenomenal. And I said midsummer, Craig, how's it going to take here for Cal Raleigh to win the MVP? He's got to hit at least 60 home runs without Judge hitting 60 home runs, and he's done that. I would be fine either way, but just being a fan of the game, boy, I would love to see Cal Raleigh take this down, Craig. I really would.
Yeah, me too. All right, so Mets are here in South Florida, Donnie, this weekend. I'm on the broadcast Saturday. Marlins are out, but they want to knock them. They want to knock the Mets out. Okay, I'm positive along those lines. Now, if they're out by Sunday, maybe the Marlins would tinker a little bit with what they're doing. But they're throwing Sandy out there tonight. Mets rotation somewhat in shambles. What do you think happens here in the end? Do the Mets have to win 2 out of 3 from the Marlins to get in my opinion? They got to win 2 out of 3. They lose the series, I think the Reds are going to get in if that's not the case. What do you think?
I agree with you. And also, it's so like, hey, good, we're playing the Marlins here, but the Marlins have really rallied in the month of September. It's been phenomenal to watch. And also, you are right, Craig. We're hearing from the organization, the players. This is our 3-game World Series right now, which is not what you want to hear if you're taking a look and saying to yourself at who's going to win this game. For me, I don't think the Mets make it in, to be honest, because I think the Marlins are going to win this series. And if you're relying on rookie pitchers down the stretch in high leverage situations, that usually doesn't work out in your favor unless you got Paul Skeens over there. And last time I checked, these guys ain't Paul Skeens.
No, definitely not. All right, Donnie, we'll see what happens. And by this time next week, we'll have some idea as to who the Phillies are going to be facing in the first round, too. Should be an exciting postseason. Thanks again for coming on.
Sure, no problem.
Donnie Rightside with us. Mr. Goodbar. Be right back. Two favorites are still the two favorites. So for me, it's just whether or not you got Herbert at a better price or if you think there's a better price to get at this point. But I mean, with the way Josh Allen plays and generally Lamar Jackson, it still does appear to be a 2-player race. The only thing, obviously, this is an injury league, Adam, and in the NFL, an injury that keeps you out 4 or 5 games, all of a sudden, those odds will shift.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Talk to me. Who are some of the guys? What are the keys for a victory here?
Well, Joe, I mean, we have this one player. I mean, it's like having Tom Brady at quarterback in the Super Bowl. We've got Scotty Scheffler. I think the first key is that, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think we should play him in all 5 matches. I'm just throwing it out there. 15 wins in 2 years. We got to get him out there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3 games to 1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump. And you can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on Sports Grid. It is a week in the National Football League with an early game on Sunday. So those of you who have to set your lineups, you got to make sure that you're prepared this week. And we have all kinds of great fantasy football programming for you, including Sunday morning Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker. And all weekend long, you can catch my show with George Kurtz here on Sports Grid as well. But one decision has already been made, and it'll be made for you here. Those of you who have Jaden Daniels on a fantasy team, or you were thinking maybe about betting the Washington Commanders, let me give you the news. As of right now, it would appear that Jaden Daniels is out for the game this week. He was ruled out by Washington, but the bigger story in this one is wide receiver Terry McLaurin is also out for the Washington Commanders. So a lot of big news in the National Football League that you want to make sure that you pay attention to. Also, Chuba Hubbard, running back of the Carolina Panthers, also questionable. Lots of questionable players this week. Sometimes it means something, sometimes it doesn't. Best I can tell you is stay here on Sports Grid all weekend long. We'll get you ready for the upcoming games this weekend. Meanwhile, there's a new lawsuit filed against North Carolina alleging foul play over Bill Belichick's hiring. Here's the latest on that story with our friends at Front Office Sports.
Well, a new lawsuit filed against the University of North Carolina alleges that the school broke state laws when they hired Coach Bill Belichick behind closed doors. This is his team soon about to play Clemson in what is now seems to be a pretty underwhelming matchup between two of the highest paid coaches in the ACC. So for that and so much more, let's bring in our college sports reporter, Amanda Kristovich. Amanda, good to see you. We'll get to the Clemson matchup here in a second, but let's start with the lawsuit. What does this person allege here?
Yeah, the lawsuit is very interesting because it was filed by UNC's former provost, and the crux of the lawsuit is alleging that the UNC board, their board of trustees, in multiple instances had meetings behind closed doors or closed door meetings. The official term I'm sort of blanking on, but ultimately they have publicity laws. They have public records laws in North Carolina, and this is a public university system, right? So the lawsuit is alleging that these meetings took place illegally behind closed doors for various reasons. And one or a couple of the allegations related to meetings about the athletic department, one of which was the hiring of Bill Belichick, that conversation that discussed his compensation package. It was an emergency meeting that was called. The actual vote itself was public. The actual hiring of Bill Belichick is not being alleged to be illegal. That's perfectly fine and good. But what the lawsuit is saying is that the conversation that was had by the Board of Trustees about Belichick's hiring was done behind closed doors when it should have been public.
And I've also seen mention in this conference realignment as an issue as well that was apparently privately discussed. And even the provost himself, Clemens, coming out mentioning how they eventually led to his resignation back in May through all of these issues. What else do you know there?
So there were two other meetings that allegedly took place about potential conference realignment. The first specifically says that the ACC or the UNC had conversations about the ACC revenue versus Big Ten or SEC revenue. Now, that's not to say that they had bids from the Big Ten or the SEC, but it was just a conversation that was had by the Board of Trustees. And there was another conversation about conference realignment that we don't know a ton of details about. And as you said, yes, ultimately, there was a meeting that was not about the athletic department or college sports that the former provost says that he talked to other members of the faculty about, and that as a result there was a vote of no confidence on him, and he ultimately was asked to resign, and he did so. So the actual resignation itself doesn't have anything to do with the college athletics portion of this, but the lawsuit includes these allegations that call into question the legality of, hiding bits of information from the public about decisions that are being made about the athletic department.
And this, of course, comes on the heels of the fact that not only does UNC have a bye this week, but they're preparing for a game that was supposed to be a huge marquee event next weekend against Clemson. Everybody thought that this was going to be the must-watch game, but now it seems like it's sort of getting scheduled now earlier in the day and not really as much in the primetime lights as much.
Yeah, I mean, look, both programs have struggled. I would argue that Clemson is the bigger story, just from the perspective of the fact that, this is Bill Belichick's first year. Obviously, we all expect expected excellence from UNC, and we didn't quite get that, at least against really formidable programs. That's not to say that they haven't won at all, right? But it's been kind of the talk of the town in the college football world that Clemson, led by Dabo Swinney, has just kind of fallen off, and there are real major concerns about the future of that program at this point, and whether or not the program is going to be able to restore its sort of former glory.
Yeah, of course, 2 of the top paid coaches in the ACC, but top 10 across college football.
Right.
Yeah, indeed. Amanda Kristovich, thank you so much for that update.
Two favorites are still the two favorites. So for me, it's just whether or not you got Herbert at a better price, or if you think there's a better price to get at this point. But I mean, with the way Josh Allen plays and generally Lamar Jackson, it still does appear to be a 2-player race. The only thing, obviously, this is an injury league, Adam, and in the NFL, an injury that keeps you out 4 or 5 games, all of a sudden, those odds will shift.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Talk to me. Who are some of the guys? What are the keys for a victory here?
Well, Joe, I mean, we have this one player. I mean, it's like having Tom Brady at quarterback in the Super Bowl. We've got Scotty Scheffler. I think the first key is that, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think we should play him in all 5 matches. I'm just throwing it out there. 15 wins in 2 years. We got to get him out there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They know the minutia of game time decisions, when to call timeouts, when the kick, go for 2, and all that other stuff better than the head coaches, because the head coaches aren't watching 30, 35 games like sports fans are between college football and the NFL. All the head coaches are doing are watching game films. They may be watching 30 game films, but they're not watching game management. So the fan does know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3-1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump. And you can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Mike Blewett is all set to go Sunday afternoon to carry you through the early slate of games in the National Football League. So we thought we would get a preview with Mike and see what positions he has as we go into the weekend. Mike, thanks for coming on NewsWire. Really appreciate it. We'll start off with last night, then we'll move on to the weekend. Any takeaways from last night here? I mean, Seattle looked like the better team for, what would you say, the majority of the game if you were watching it? And then all of a sudden, the Cardinals got late, made a stop finally, but I would feel more optimistic about Seattle than Arizona moving forward. And by the way, usage for Arizona, very bizarre. It's like they didn't know that they had Harrison. I know he made a mistake early, but it's like they don't know they have him on the team. They don't know they have Trey Benson on the team. They didn't know have McBride on the team. I'm just confused with their game plan. We'll start with Seattle here for me and then go to Arizona.
So I would say just overall, the NFC West was the division going into this season that I was probably most fascinated with. I actually think you have 4 good teams, competitive teams in that division. You could argue really had a healthy debate as to who you think would come out on top of that division, but clearly Seattle is playing well. A couple of road games here, a couple of road victories back-to-back against the, between the Steelers game and then this game with a blowout in between with the Saints at home. I think what's interesting about Seattle, Craig, is that historically they've had a reputation of playing great at home, but right now they're on a stretch where they've won 8 of 10 away from home. So catching a divisional game away from home and beating the Steelers, which is a difficult place to play, I think says a lot about how they look. Sam Darnold is sharp when he needs to be. He's not MVP worthy at the moment, but he is sharp when he needs to be. They're mixing in a run game that has been probably a little bit slower to start off the season than they would like, but this defense really gets after it. They said it on the broadcast last night. Second lowest blitz rate in the entire NFL, but yet the fourth highest pressure rate. They're getting home with just the defensive lineman without having to blitz. I think that's a reason for why you saw the unique, let's put it kindly, usage that Arizona had to employ. Kyler was on the move a lot, and I think utilizing some guys, maybe not looking at the primary receivers in every situation, but good win for Seattle.
Yeah, I think also we may use Seattle a little bit going forward. Also forget that Myers did, I know it was a tough field goal, but he did miss a long field goal. And if he hits that, this game is basically over. There's no way Arizona comes back from that. But as of right now, the 49ers are the favorite to win the division. And Seattle, naturally, with that win, they're going to jump up on FanDuel this morning. We'll see how the Rams do this weekend. We'll get to that next. And then Arizona at this point, look, if they have a 500 season or better, that's kind of what we expected at the beginning of the year. They're 14-1. So speaking of the Rams, they're 3.5-point favorites this week against the Colts. Mike, I maintain the Colts they don't need to prove anything to me this week going to the Rams. They're 3-0. If they lose, it's like, okay, who had the Colts winning 10, 11 games this season? That's what their pace is if they just play 500. So I do think this will be a competitive game. The total also says it, 49.5 points. And as we know, the acquisition to get Daniel Jones in the offseason has definitely led the Colts to this spot. The coaching has been good too. A little bit of luck with a field goal issue against Denver. Rams have had some bad luck, I would say, last week too. So coin flip game for me. Tough one to call.
Yeah, I think 3.5 is a number that is really going to make people think about it right up until kickoff. Obviously, I'm on In-Game Live. I think it's an interesting live betting opportunity. If you're a Rams backer, I could see this game being back and forth, and maybe the Rams don't have the lead at some point during the game. You might even get them at plus money at some point throughout the game. Certainly, you had the Eagles. You had opportunities at the Eagles at plus money down 19 points at one point last week. I don't suspect that will happen this week, but I do like the Rams. I think this is a really big test for the Colts. They've passed everything with flying colors thus far, but I'm going to be on the Rams. I just don't love the 3.5. I think I could wait for a live betting opportunity. At 49.5, though, as much as we've seen points from these two offenses, I think the Colts traveling now to LA is an opportunity for us to perhaps see a lower scoring Colts game. I'm leaning to the under on this one. And like the Rams, might split up a half, might wait for a live betting opportunity. But if you made me bet it at 3.5, I'd probably take the Colts on the value.
And look at the Rams. They're playing very conservative, at least attempting a lot of field goals, playing under on their totals, if not for that long touchdown that the Eagles returned last week. It would have been that. So I think that's a fair assessment. Also, Matthew Stafford on the season, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Rams have played 3 games. I mean, that's 1 touchdown and a half passing a game. That's not a lot. It seems like the Rams are being careful with their quarterback because they know if they lose him, it's down to Jimmy G, and they don't want that. 49ers are 3-point favorites this week against the Jaguars. Talk about fishy lines of the week. This has to be one of them. Jaguars certainly could be 3-0 if they didn't get out of their own way in week 2, and then they could have lost last week against Houston as well. So I'm not really sure what to make of them. They look better than last year. But the 49ers are just so banged up, Mike. It's a tough team to gauge. A million injuries to their offense, to their defense, maybe some players on special teams that I'm not even aware of. I'm going to guess Brock Purdy's going to play in this one. The line has to be baked in a little. Maybe, I guess, if he plays, it goes to 3.5, perhaps. I don't know. And Lawrence, I can't figure out either, Trevor Lawrence. Sometimes he drives down the field. Jacksonville looks amazing. Other times he just throws a pick right to the other guy. I can't figure this. Tough team. I'm going to stay away from this game. How about you?
It's not a great game to bet on. I think that's probably already baked in expectations that Purdy is going to play. But you said injuries. They had plenty of injuries before this, with Ayuk still coming back, Kittle out for a while, and then they lose their arguably best. Well, I mean, on paper, he's their best defensive player. It's Nick Bosa. He's won a Defensive Player of the Year. Fred Warner Fred Warner backers might argue that he is the one, but nonetheless, Bosa done for the year with the ACL injury and a devastating blow to that Niners defense. I think you're right. The Jacksonville Jaguars are a very hard team to figure out. They don't feel like a team that's playing well. I think offensively, they're very clunky right now. Trevor Lawrence, to your point, Craig, sprays the ball all over the field. He and Liam Cohen have gotten into it during games about that very thing. So I would be surprised if they go to Santa Clara and get a victory. So I'll have to take the Niners. But again, this is a low-scoring game for me, definite under. And I think the Niners try to grind out another victory.
Yeah, Niners easily could have lost last week against Arizona, if not for some bounces there too. Meanwhile, we got news real quick, Mike. I just want to get your opinion on this before we break, and then we'll come back and we'll do the rest of the slate. Washington makes the announcement. Not a surprise that Jaden Daniels is out, but I don't think anybody woke up Monday morning thinking that Terry McLaurin was going to miss this game too for Washington. So talk about a lot of money left off the table on the field this week. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess Deebo Samuel becomes the major part of their offense again. And Marcus Mariota did plenty enough to win this past week, but I wonder if that luck runs out this week. I'm curious your opinion. They're two most important players on offense out.
Well, you talk about the Jaguars being a hard team to figure out. Welcome to the Atlanta Falcons. That is a team that is impossible to figure out, attempting a lot of field goals with two different kickers so far this season. They have played really well defensively. Look, it's a tough spot for Washington to have to go on the road here. I just hate how consistent Atlanta is. I think this could be a game, though, where Mariota really played well last week. They didn't miss too much. Granted, he's not Jaden Daniels, and if you ask him to do it for an entire season, he's not going to be Jaden Daniels. But for a week or two, given the offensive success that they've had over the last year plus, I think they can go down there and get a victory. I'm going to take the points here with Washington. I can't really trust Atlanta yet. Penix coming off an absolutely terrible game. They played, I'd say, the worst game in the NFL last week by any team. So I'm going to take Washington, despite those injuries, to go down there and get a victory.
All right, great stuff, Mike, as always. But we're not done with Mike, because by the time that he hits the air Sunday afternoon, there's already going to be a game in the books. Yes, it's that time of the year in the National Football League to start games in the morning. That's right. They're overseas. So on the East Coast, it's 9:30 a.m. And for all of you who are watching NewsWire here out west, that's 6 o'clock in the morning. The NFL begins for you. So get ready for that. Mike will stick around for us. We'll preview that game between the Vikings and Steelers in Dublin next. So stay on the grid. We'll be right back after these quick messages here on NewsWire on this Friday. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback, and quite frankly, he doesn't get enough grace, I should say, for saying, I win football games. Like, what would you rather? We go play Mahomes, and, oh, man, 41-40, Hurts, 375, 4 touchdowns, they lost. Boy, that guy's good. Or no, hey, you know what? I'm going to play within myself. I'm not going to turn the football over. I'm going to play within the game script here, and we're just going to win. Doesn't matter who gets the accolades.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Biggest games, the biggest bets that you need to know. So much fun already, Joe. I feel
Yeah,
like
I'm
we got
having a good
lot
time.
of information
Loving
now.
it. Yeah. Good games, not great, but again, it's college football. You can bet on them, nothing better.
Bet it, win. By the way, and I always like to say this, and it's true. Like, you can have the worst game in the world. You cash your ticket, it's like a Picasso. Like, that game was the best game I ever watched in my life.
Are you kidding?
Exactly.
Especially when you're hitting parlays.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Two favorites are still the two favorites. So for me, it's just whether or not you got Herbert at a better price, or if you think there's a better price to get at this point. But I mean, with the way Josh Allen plays and generally Lamar Jackson, it still does appear to be a two-player race. The only thing, obviously, this is an injury league, Adam, and in the NFL, an injury that keeps you out 4 or 5 games, all of a sudden, those odds will shift.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Mike Blewett back with us. And as I mentioned, Mike will be on the air Sunday afternoon reviewing the early games. But the earliest game on the board will be completed when Mike comes on the air on Sunday. So get ready for that. And it's his team, too. So where's the prep going to be? Vikings and Steelers. We're going to have to pull Mike away and say, get ready for your show. Vikings are a short favorite here Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So this is, Mike, my analysis here is as follows. If the Vikings don't win 48-10 against Cincinnati and just win the game, isn't this a pick'em? Is this a little inflated on the side of the Vikings? Now, look, I'm not sure who the Steelers are. They could have lost last week against New England. I'm not going to get it twisted here. They probably didn't deserve to win that game. But maybe the line just isn't even a factor in this one. Total 40.5. I love your handicap.
They will push the Steelers unders as low as they can go each and every week. It's amazing, right? Even when the defense isn't playing particularly well, right? That game went to 35 last week, and there were 6 turnovers in it. So we should have gotten there. It's just a bunch of fluky turnovers, including in the red zone multiple times. So against Seahawks, went sailing over with the 8 of special teams touchdowns, and obviously in week 1, they went right over it. So there has not yet been an adjustment for how poorly the Steelers defense is playing on these totals. That's the first thing I'll say. Mike Tomlin as an underdog is awesome, but it is a neutral site game. The Steelers don't play many of these. I really haven't seen them in London much at all over the years, and now this one's in Dublin. There's a big Steelers fan base in Ireland, in Dublin. It'll be certainly more of a Steelers crowd than a Vikings crowd. We'll see how tilted it is. But I'm expecting a close game, so 2.5 makes sense to me. Tomlin as an underdog, I'll take the 2.5 points, but I have to go over. I just have to assume, even if both offenses aren't particularly great, the Steelers are getting these overs by hell or high water, and if not for a crazy amount of turnovers last week, we would have been over in all 3.
Yeah. The Steelers' defense hasn't been great. Although I would say this: Brian Flores' defense in Minnesota looks as good as any team in the NFL. Steelers, of course, have played some close games against the Jets, and then last week against the Patriots in particular as well. Okay, so if you like marquee matchups aside from Sunday morning, then you like this one: Ravens and Chiefs battling it out. It's funny how we view sports these days in the National Football League, Mike. They're not talking about who's going to win this game. They're talking about who's going to lose this game and fall to 1-3. Ravens are a slight favorite. They have problems on defense. Chiefs is a slight dog. They have problems on offense. Something's got to give this Sunday.
Ravens, first team to score over 100 points in their first 3 games and have a losing record in the Super Bowl era. Lamar Jackson has 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions through 3 games, and yet they're 1-2. This is all on the defense. Obviously, they're scoring just fine. I think the Chiefs can limit them, but it's too hard for me, even with Patrick Mahomes as an underdog and his record as an underdog. It's really hard for me to pick them right now. We're all watching their offense struggle. They're obviously missing significant weapons on offense, and that's all well and good, but they're playing the Ravens now, and I think the Ravens are going to get picked on by media for choking late in games or being a leaky defense at the wrong time, but they are an explosive offense, and I expect them to get off to a good start. Spagnuolo usually does a really good job for the Chiefs in limiting teams in the second half, so I can understand this being a lower scoring second half, and I'll look at that number. But the reality is I'm taking the Ravens here. Patrick Mahomes as a home underdog, 0-2 straight up. So even though he's great as an underdog at home, last couple of times out, he has not won the game. So I'm going to go with the Ravens here. And if you're looking at second half number, I'll find it for you. The second half total is 23.5. So, a couple of touchdowns, a couple of field goals. We'll stay under on that one. I expect a higher scoring first half for the Ravens and second half.
Yeah, since 1990, only 15% of teams have made the playoffs after starting 1-3. The odds makers are telling us the Ravens are going to win this game, like Mike said, because they're still 3-1 to win the AFC. It's very rare to see the Chiefs getting a price like this. 7-1. Last decade, you never would get 7-1, something like that. Maybe when Mahomes got hurt a few years ago, but beyond that, that's where they're at. Okay, so the Chargers are laying a big.
Now is the time. If you're a believer, now is the time. You bet it now. You bet it next. You bet it after the game on Sunday, and then just hold it.
Yeah, best price you'll get ever on Kansas City to win, if you believe that. If you believe Jackson Dart is the answer for the Giants, then you certainly would take the points here. 6.5. I'm not one of those people, but I'm never going to lay a touchdown on the road. I'm supremely worried here, Mike, about Dart. I think it's going to be very tough for him. I think it's a horrible matchup to go against Jim Harbaugh and that Chargers defense. But stranger things have happened in the NFL. Should we be excited for the Giants, or is this more of the same?
I think you should have tempered enthusiasm. The problem is they play the Chargers, just go to New Orleans. After that, at Denver, at Philly, San Francisco, at Chicago, Green Bay, that's the schedule after this. So it's going to be a rough stretch for the Giants. They needed a couple of wins early. They got none of them. I think there's going to be calling for Brian Daboll's job soon enough. And I think that you're right about laying touchdowns at home. I don't think that's the way you have to go. But what I expect is a very low point total from the Giants. Their team total is 18.5. Betting there. I just don't see the Giants scoring multiple touchdowns against this Chargers defense that might possess the ball for 40 minutes, might the offense. So Dart may not be in harm's way for too much of the game, but I don't expect them to be successful. They'll get out there. They'll try to run the offense a little bit more efficiently than they've been doing in the first 3 weeks. But my favorite bet in this game is Giants under team total 18.5.
Yeah, and I do love Cam Scatterbo, but this guy is not going to, have a 50-yard run. I mean, teams can just literally sit back in the defensive backfield and wait to see if any explosive play potentially goes down the field. I think this is a tough matchup for the kids' first week. Mike, thanks again. We'll catch you Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock Eastern. Appreciate you coming back.
Thanks, bud.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout on NewsWire. Coming up next, some news on Major League Baseball's broadcasting. We'll have that for you and more when we return next and wrap up the week here on NewsWire. Don't go away.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
That's a lot for a closer. 10. You're not a closer anymore if you blow 10 games. I mean, my goodness. That's
he's mentally broken too. Like, it's to the point where, like, Dodger fans aren't even mad at him. They're more mad at the Dodgers for putting him out there.
Putting him in.
Right? It's more so.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, guys, like, he's done.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Major League Baseball has decided it is time to put balls and strikes not just in the hands of the umpires, but also the robot umpires, as they say. The ABS system is now officially in place starting next season. Now, keep in mind, they're not just throwing this out there. They have used this at the Arizona Fall League, and they've also used it at different levels of the minor leagues as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Everything changed at that point. They went and got Jonquel Jones, and they really had that triple threat monster team. That second year they lost in the WNBA Finals, 3-1 against the Las Vegas Aces. Year 3, they finally get over the top hump, and you can question whether they should have won the title with that foul call late in Game 5 that sent Breanna Stewart to the foul line.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. By this time Monday, we'll know exactly who's in Major League Baseball's postseason as it begins on Tuesday of next week. The wild card rounds will have tons of coverage, as you could expect here on SportsGrid. We'll give you some baseball updates here on the show as well, some broadcasting updates, and then, of course, we will send things over to our afternoon programming, which includes fantasy sports today. So make sure you stay on the grid for that. But first, let's talk about baseball and how you may be viewing it, including tonight on Friday Night Baseball. It's time now for the Last Licks. Friday Night Baseball is going to be on Apple TV. Now, again, Apple TV indeed is losing Major League Baseball. This is going to be the final season of that. As you may know, the new broadcasting agreements, which we're going to talk about, do not include Apple. But tonight, you're going to get a chance to view what the video looks like from an iPhone perspective on a Major League Baseball broadcast. It's the first ever of its kind. Gameplay and exclusive ballpark moments will be captured on the iPhone 17. This is number 17. Wow, Pro. It's the Tigers and Red Sox. And, by the way, I would give Apple credit for this. The viewership is fantastic. Like, to be able to actually watch the game, very crisp, clear. I would say that. But here's what I would also say is that the main reason to get the new iPhone 17 Pro? Like, no offense to Apple, my reason to get a new iPhone is because when my iPhone is done, that's the only, I will bury my iPhone into the ground. Now, I think I did upgrade a couple years ago, so I'm on 15 or 16, something like that. But for me, it's a really hard sell. What is left to get us to get off of our phone into a new one outside of it just being really old? I'm not really sure, but check it out tonight. Tigers, Red Sox shot on iPhone 17. Okay, I actually broke this story several weeks ago, but I'm not getting any credit for it. That's okay, because not everybody watches Marlins baseball or watches my show here, but that's fine. I talked about this on our show. I talked about this on FanDuel Sports Network as well. Major League Baseball's opening night between the Giants, and Frank, you could confirm this, right? Giants and Yankees is going to be on Netflix. So this was, I guess, made official yesterday. It's the first ever Major League Baseball game that's going to be on Netflix, and it's the very first game of the season. So what happens when you have to stream the very first game of the year? People start crying. They start bitching. Why do I have to buy Netflix in order to see my first game of the baseball season? Folks, this is where we are at. You can complain all you want. Streaming is the way of the future. And if you don't have the apps and you don't want them, so be it. But you're going to have to get them to watch sports. They're also, of course, going to have Home Run Derby and some special programming as well. I don't know who's on the broadcast Netflix. Maybe it'll be me. You never know. Maybe. Could be. You never know. Who knows what I'll be doing with baseball next season. But Yankees, Giants, Netflix. If you don't have Netflix by now, where have you been? I'm not trying to sell Netflix, but it's not that expensive. There's a lot of good movies and stuff like that on there. Just go get it. All right, finally, one more baseball story to end our week. A rite of passage for rookies in Major League Baseball at the end of every single season when they go on a road trip. We did this earlier in the week. We're going to do it again. The Tampa Bay Rays have their ideas for their rookies, and they're going to end their season this weekend. The Rays went with a princess theme for their rookie dress up. And so the Rays got all dressed up like princesses, and they went on the plane to their next destination. And so this is the form of what we would call hazing, I guess, a little bit. But I think it's kind of funny, not a big deal. By the way, Tampa Bay Rays did not have a year like they're used to, which is getting into the postseason and winning 90 games. But they always are a pretty fun, well-run organization, and I don't mind this idea at all from them. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Want to thank our great guests. We had some really good conversations, I think, on the show today. Would you agree if you watched the whole thing? Bill Bender was on the program from Sporting News. Joe Lisi was on, also Donnie Rightside, and Mike Blewett also tuning in. And this, don't forget, we got great college football games tonight, too. So your game time decisions, in-game live programming, Gabe and everybody else throughout the night here. Make sure you catch those games before you get into college football again on Saturday. And for those of you who haven't placed bets yet, or maybe you're thinking of doing it and you're like, I want somewhere to track my bets, you can do it via the SportsGrid app. Just take out your phone. And if you have an iOS phone or even Android, just scan the QR code that Luke is going to throw up on the screen right there. And you can get the SportsGrid app for free. It is streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Streaming quality as of about 8 months ago, I would say, has gone very high up. So you'll be able to watch our shows as a side screen. We got a lot of really good, not just handicappers, but I think people who break the game down well here on our network as well. Don't forget Florida State, Virginia. That's the main game of the night. FSU's an 8-point favorite. We'll see if an update is in store. Total of 59.5. I'll see you back here later this afternoon for our next edition of Fantasy Sports Today. But if fantasy football is not your thing and you're just a SportsGrid NewsWire fan, then I guess I'll see you Monday for our next edition of the show. Thanks to Luke and Frank. I'll see you then. Have a great day.